Hey guys, it's TJ here from RBT, helping people get the body of their dreams. And today I want to talk to you about carbohydrates. So the magical elixir of fat loss, well, or a lack thereof it, apparently. So at least that's what you hear most people say. So you ask almost anyone, they need to lose a few cheeky kilos, they'll probably say, just cut back on the carbs. The anti-carb movement has probably hit its peak with most people now assuming that carbohydrates are inherently fattening. You smell a carb, and you get fat. Don't joke, I've actually heard someone say that, and they were being serious. So health conscious diners fill Instagram with pictures of basically bunless hamburgers, skipped the baked potato side dish and send the bread basket back to the kitchen so you don't feel guilty. Now, it doesn't have to be like this. So the truth is, carbs have a bad rap, and like most diets and fads and myths, the facts that it's been lost along the frantic search for the quick fix solution. And first things first, carbohydrates are in almost everything. Yep, you bet it. So it's in broccoli, carbohydrates are in that. Unless you're living almost just meat and coconut oil, and it's safe to say you're gonna consume some carbs. And you're gonna do it without even realizing it. So first things first, like almost everything we say, is focus on whole foods first. The real problem for fat loss comes with processed foods. We've talked about that in lots of other videos. So carbohydrates from potatoes is not your nemesis. It's more likely the high fructose corn syrup in the muffin or the refined overly processed square loaf that keeps coming back for more. Truth is, eating the right carbs in the right quantity can actually help you lose weight. And yes, you did hear me correctly, because those mashed potatoes can make you lose weight. Now, before you start slathering on the butter and warming the dinner roll, what I want you to do is I want you to hold off for a second, because I promise you can eat the bread roll. You truly probably can. But first you need to discuss these first two factors in carbohydrates in the roll with fat loss. The right type of carbs and the right quantity of carbs. So the timing of carbohydrates will not be discussed today. That's a totally different video in itself. But I can honestly tell you that it's not completely critical. And unless you're jumping on stage or you're an elite athlete, it's not the most critical component. So let's start with why is a bad thing to avoid carbs altogether? And yes, it is worse. So now it's no secret that skipping carbs in a meal is the simplest way to reduce a calorie consumption. Take the carbs out, you eat less. Today, you lose weight. So if this didn't work, then Atkins' diet wouldn't have lasted as long as it did. And you know, the butter melting on the steak and all that type of stuff. So the problem is long-term carb reduction can actually cost you. And we need to talk about carbohydrates and their functional long-term. Keeping your carbohydrates too long can have disastrous consequences on you and your body. So this is true for those who work out, those who don't work out. In a nutshell, the effects are decreased thyroid output. This slows your metabolism. And if you're interested in anything like that about your thyroid, let us know and we'll do a video on that. But I want you to know the power of the T3 hormone. But basically, when you don't eat enough or you don't eat enough carbs while training, T3 goes down. Reverse T3 goes up, but further blocking T3. So you feel like crap, and eventually your training starts to suck. And if you're active, you need adequate energy and carb intake for a healthy thyroid. Increase cortisol output so your stress goes up. Decrease testosterone so your sex drive goes. And this is all related to your cortisol levels and your muscle development. So even ladies need testosterone. Impaired mood, cognitive function, cranky, laziness, and don't forget muscle catabolism. Yes, and you can get cellulite from this. Suppress immune function. No need to explain this, you get sick. So in summary, all of that, and if you calculate the yo-yo on the scales and you actually don't lose that much weight, it's no shock that anyone who's into this low carb, no carb, epic hatred of carbs is most strongly held in the female circles. They hate the carbs the most. You don't see many men ordering a side salad. You do see a few, but it's not as prevalent. We know that eating too low carb for too long can have a significant disruption to many hormones. So we talked about that just before. So this is especially true for women whose bodies may be sensitive, more sensitive than men. recommends to low energy or low carbohydrate availability. So perhaps in the evolutionary importance of having enough body fat and nutrients to sustain pregnancy. So this means for women that it's not just about eating enough calories, it means that those calories need to include the correct ratio of macronutrients, so the correct proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. So you're stressed, you're not building muscle, toning, and your booty is melting away. There is even a fancy word for it, hypothalamic amenorrhea. Now, this means disrupted hormones, or stopped, or irregular periods, or periods because the HPA's response to perceived starvation and stress. Now, in this, hormone levels start to plummet, and the cascade is felt throughout your system. You end up with low levels of luteinizing hormone, LH, follicle stimulating hormone, FSH, and estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So your HPA axis regulates the functions such as stress response, mood, digestion, immunity, your system, your libido, your metabolism, and all your energy levels. So basically, after all of those letter and hormones, the key of this is if you're trying to be healthier by cutting out the carbs, the reality is low carb diets actually significantly disrupt your hormone production, and women with too low carb intakes, especially active women, can face stop irregular menstrual cycles, lowered fertility, hypoglycemia where blood sugar swings, and more body fat. So it can actually make you put on body fat, and loss of bone density, anxiety, depression. I would be depressed if I let carbs go as well, and mental issues as well. So chronic inflammation and chronic and worse pain. So chronic fatigue, disrupted sleep, host of other chronic problems, the list goes on. It's ironic, isn't it? Because we hopefully understand now that the mission carbs are critical, and especially for women. And hopefully by now you understand that you've been listening to this and you've thought back over the times you enjoy the day after day of chicken and celery and lettuce, desperately trying to drop those extra kilos in time to feel confident in that dress, and how every single time the weight came straight back on with a vengeance. So now, as we stated, this is not a one-size-fits-all. So if you're an endurance athlete, you need more carbohydrates than your average Joe. And there are some medical conditions that have been shown to respond or reduce in severity in response to low carbohydrates. So if you have had issues with your weight for a long time, it is always recommended to seek a specialist and a specialist advice. But in general, our basic nutrition guidelines at RBT will see you results for most of you. And if you want something very or more specialized, you gotta chat to your trainer. If you're not a member of RBT, we can certainly help you out as well. But what this means for you, sometimes we get caught up in the fad diets that basically we forget to look at the evidence, and the fad diets are mostly bad diets. For many years we thought the secret of maintaining our weight was to eat lots of carbs and reduce our fat intake, if you can remember that. But just think back to the old food guide pyramid. It was all the grains at the bottom and there was the fats at the top. Things start to flip, but we still do need carbohydrates. Strict diets, deprivation, meal replacement shakes, straight into skipping meals doesn't work for most people. So people feel deprived and they get hungry. They cheat with fat-free or guilt-free or high-sugar treats and end up eating all the foods, okay? All the foods, guys. So if your eating plan doesn't work or it's not working for you, it's tempting to make it more restrictive. Don't take nutrition extremes, please, unless you have extreme goals. Now, understanding nutrition is key, and at risk of sounding like your dad essentially, or moderation is the key. So most of us need some carbs, and most of us will look and feel and perform our best when we have a balanced, reasonable amount of carbs, lean protein, and healthy fats. But at RBT, we recommend flexibility, enjoying the high quality whole foods approach that you love, including the treats you need for sanity so you don't feel like you start to binge, and adjusting your intake and with your own experience, goals, and unique needs. Don't like rice? Then fine, don't eat rice. Try another carb source. Don't like beef or try another lean protein. How about eggs? So guys, you do need carbohydrates. It should be anywhere between 20% to 40% of your total calorie goal. So if you do keep it out, you heard of the list of things that can happen, but if you keep it in, your performance will increase, your fat loss will increase, your sanity will increase, and you're just going to be a better person to be around. No one likes to be the hangry person, especially me. Guys, if you want an individual nutrition consultation, at RBT we do a 7-day trial. We look at your nutrition, we help you out with it, and we do it all for free for those first 7 days. So opt in below, we go through all this for you so you can have your individual diet done. Now, get started, opt in below, and I'll see you in the club.